and it's really a pleasure to be with you at this confluence. So I wanted to thank Talent Sprint for giving this opportunity, and I really appreciate each one of you coming here and participating in this journey to really transform millions of lives in the country. So I thought I'll really talk about the skill development within the academic institutions and give you what our kind of vision is, and use this opportunity to share and also learn from you. I think if I look at it, there are four key challenges to skill development. The first one really relates to capacity reach across the country to do the numbers that you've heard that we need to do. The second, you've heard this from all speakers, is really quality. The third one, which has not really come out in detail other than the video which Shantanu used, was when he actually took the loan to learn, is funding. And now that funding issue has actually been solved because an unsecured loan up to ₹150,000 is available to anybody who wants to undertake a skill program. Of course, there was also a question on aspirations, and I'll touch that because it is key to do so. The first thing is that we have to actually increase capacity 11 times if we want to address the numbers that we want to. 3 years ago, when I presented this slide, it was 8 times. Maybe 2 years down the line, when I present, it will be 20 times. But that's the magnitude of problem that we are looking at. And I think all of us in this room can prevent this going up and actually coming down in the years going forward. Because what is required is not only greenfield training centers to come up, but as they say in the industrial space, brownfield, in all the institutions that are represented here in the world, in the room, and those who are not in here as well. So the challenge is that it's not only in the academic system that we need to do it. So while we focus here in the academic system, we need to also think of how do we engage the others who are out of the system. Are there methods to do so? Yes. Is India a leader in that? Yes. So if you look at the top open schools in the world, India is number 1. If you look at the top 15 open universities in the world, India has 4 in that list. And there is no US or European university in that. They're all from Asia. And the closest European equivalent is a university from Turkey. So if we actually focus ourselves and to see how we can include the people who get excluded from the academic system, we will be making a huge contribution to the economy. So this is a classic statement which Mr. Sri Rabindranath Tagore actually made many years ago. And it kind of summarizes what we actually do to students once they come in the classroom. And I think our real effort here is to ensure that we enable everybody who comes in touch with the education system to have fun, to enjoy, to learn, to become creative, and become a positive contributor to the economy in India. This is a McKinsey study, and this is what normally you see from them. 83% of the educationists believe that the new graduates are ready to work in industry. And I think the last presentation clearly brought out that it's close to 53%, 50%, which actually is the 53% is here. So the system is kind of broken, right? Now when you talk to academics, and I will not repeat that experiment here, but most academicians and most institutions say, our job is not to prepare students for the world of work. Our job is to actually impart education to students, make them good human beings. But if I were to replace this room by a group of equivalent number of students, and I would ask a simple question: how many of you have joined this institution without the intention of getting a job as soon as you pass out of this institution? So the question I ask is, how many have you joined this institution without the objective of getting a job and when you pass out? And by a job, I mean either become an entrepreneur or join a course of higher education or get a job. Not a single hand goes up. And then after tea, all the leaders of the educational institutions say, you know, that's not the right question to ask. You should have asked some other question. But I think that's the reality. You know, there's a mismatch in the aspiration of children, another type of aspiration, the aspiration of children getting into the education system and the aspiration of the educators in the system. So the National Skill Development Corporation actually was called as created as a public-private partnership. As Dr. Rangarajan actually said, that perhaps the government needs to create an enabling system and allow the real stakeholders to collaborate and make this a success. That is what this experiment is. And one of the big challenges in continuing this experiment is that the moment something succeeds and the moment something is going well, then there's a fear that, you know, government should take control. So the one challenge that we all collectively have, if the system is actually functioning, how do we allow it to function going forward? And I happened to meet the chairperson of the CII Education Committee. She's here. And just to say that, you know, CII is a 5.1% shareholder in this. 3 roles: create, fund, and enable. Create a vision for large-scale skill development. When you talk to the government agencies, their programs are doing well. They have to do 350 million by 2022. NSDC has to do 150 million. When you talk to NGOs and you talk to educational institutions, they're doing 100 to 1,000 people a year. The challenge is not 100,000 a year, but we need to do hundreds of 100,000s a year to be able to get this target going. So this is just the brief thing which I'm going to talk about what has actually happened in the NSDC ecosystem, because just to communicate. First, at every district, we have mapped the youth aspirations and manpower requirements. Bihar is the blue which is pending, but that study is also complete. And what is interesting, like Mr. Chaudhary said, right, in the 90s or the late 80s and early 90s, nobody wanted to join the IT industry. In fact, nobody even wanted to invest 10,000 rupees in Infosys. They were having problem raising money. And look at how the IT industry has actually transformed their image going forward. So the first collective challenge we have is when you talk to young people, they want to join IT, but they don't want to join industries in manufacturing or construction or logistics because they don't find them aspirational. So like, take the learnings from the IT industry, we have to actually make those industries attractive to be able to attract employees to come in. Today, like Mr. Chaudhary said, the jobs that existed yesterday are not there today. The jobs that will exist tomorrow, we don't know of today. And therefore, we need to develop a system to keep this skill gap study very active and buoyant. NSDC board has approved 159 training partners and 31 sector skill councils. I'll come to the councils in a minute. 108 are operational. We have over 33 lakh people trained till date. If you look at this number, and we are looking at training exactly 33 lakh through the NSDC partners, the 159 partners this year. In 2008, the total skill capacity in India was 3.1 million or 31 lakh. And if this year, the NSDC ecosystem actually skills 33 lakhs, we would have created a capacity in 4 years that was created over a period of 50 plus years. The partners have actually committed to train over 82 million people by 2022. We have 55% of the capacity. We hope that the partners will respond and meet these targets, because the ability of the private sector and the quality of delivery of the private sector is always questioned, and we have to actually come out of that looking good. So this is how the NSDC ecosystem and the skill system in the country has moved. We did, like I said, it was 31 lakhs in 2008. We took it to 51 lakhs in 2012-13, 68 lakhs last year, and this year we're trying for 1.03 crores. And NSDC has gone from 4 lakhs to 10 lakhs to 33 lakhs in the kind of same space. What we're trying to actually fix here is that you constantly hear that industry cannot employ people coming out of the system. For the simple reason, the academic institutions do not know what industry wants. Most academic institutions are happy to do an IBM or Cisco or a Microsoft course, because they know that there's a guarantee that if someone does that, he will be recognized in industry. But for a majority of the cases, they don't know. Therefore, the curriculums are not aligned. Therefore, the training and facilitators are not trained to do that. The question is, do you get in-house professors who possibly have a different set of talents to do it, or you get industry to collaborate and actually help it happen? The assessment of students is also a question mark. Industry does not trust the assessments and certifications done by the education institutions themselves, so can we find a way to get industry involved? And how do we create an equivalence and recognition system between the vocational space and the educational space going forward? So the way we thought we'll do that, since industry or the employers are the number one actually users, and the academic system is also an employer, and I'll come to that in a bit. So how do you understand the training need analysis? How do you develop curriculum? How do you roll out training? How do you do assessment and certification? And we said, can we look at sector councils to do this? Sector skill councils are not a new concept to India. They are rooted in tradition. They were known as shrenis or guilds, as they were called in ancient and medieval India. And in both the Vedic and the Buddhist system of education, the shrenis played a great role. We're trying to revive an ancient culture, and one of the existing sector councils or guilds is actually the sculptures guilds in Mahabalipuram, not far from here. So 31 councils have been prepared. They'll create occupational standards. They'll develop a training plan for them. They will accredit training institutions, participate in the assessment and certification, and also train the trainers. So these are the sector skill councils. And what they've done over the past few years, actually 1.5 years to be precise, is created 879 occupational standards that could be used by academia to develop curriculum and embed it in their own curriculum so that when people come out, they're actually skilled going forward. Interestingly, since we are talking to an audience of the college and university level, it's level 4 and above, which is roughly close to 664 qualification packs out of the 879. And there are another 15 sector skill councils that are in progress. Hopefully 80% of entry-level job roles will be ready for you to use by 31st March 2015. Please look at them. We are open for comments. And what it means is that we need to be able to quickly switch and introduce courses. So let me give you an example of what's happened. The recent release of Apple had a very interesting software. Guess what? Stanford is already running a course on that software. I wonder how many Indian companies or Indian training organizations are doing that. So we need to be that responsive to the needs of industry. So the National Skills Qualification Framework has been actually announced on the 27th of December last year. And it's trying to provide an equivalence from level 1, which is class 9, to post, which is to PhDs in class at level 10. And one of the challenges that we actually face here is the academic institutions through their executive councils, board of studies, academic councils, find it very difficult to adapt to this system. Because here, we are not talking of hours and classrooms. We are talking of outcomes. Can someone do this, right? And like Dr. Rangarajan said, the questions that are asked here are not simple questions that, you can do, I think the best example is a tape recorder to tape recorder. It doesn't work that way. You actually got to think. And I'll give you some examples of what's happening. And the interesting part and what you need to know is that if the Skills Qualification Framework notification says that funding will be preferentially available over the next 3 years to courses that are aligned to this, after 3 years, no government funding will be given to any program which is not aligned to the Skills Qualification Framework. And after 5 years, no such program will be allowed. So I think you have some time to think through this and take it forward. What is interesting here is that these NOSes that you have seen here are not technical skills. They have 3 components. They have what do the employers want in terms of attitude. They have a definition of what the employers are looking in terms of knowledge, and they're looking in terms of what the employers are looking in skills. So it's a whole competency-based framework that is being put in place. We also then tested this out over the last year, from August 16th of last year till the end of last month, which is October, which is yesterday, where we said, can we look at taking and offering these programs to a host of institutions around the country? Can they align their standards to these training, align their training to these standards, get them certified by the sector skill councils, and can we do that? What is interesting is that we set ourselves a target of getting 10 lakh people certified. Halfway through, we said we actually have to enroll close to 1.5 lakhs. And when we enrolled 1.4, everybody got jittery and said, you know, what happens if the pass rate goes up? Actually, the pass rate is around 61%. And we get a lot of calls from many institutions saying, you know, we are CAs, MBAs, the people are studying in the final year of engineering. You know, how can they fail a skills test at level 4? Well, the reality is that they did, because nobody is used to a competency-based assessment. And 17,250 centers across the country did it across 34 states and union territories. And we are looking at taking this forward from middle to end of this month for the next phase till March, where we'll roughly do a same amount of numbers. There is also an Education Sector Skill Council. This was notified on October 15th, 2014. So it's like fresh off the press, because 15 days is insufficient time for things to travel from Delhi to Chennai, although it's on the website. So the functions of this is to looking at setting up a labor market information system for the education sector, and the composition is very well defined. They will not look at entry-level academic faculty in colleges and universities and teacher qualifications in schools, but everything else would be actually looked at this, and all the trainers and others would also be covered under this. So how is it working in the academic system? Let me take the school system first. Level 1 to 4, 6 states, 2 boards, over 2.25 lakh students this year across different states. And whenever I show this thing in a particular state, the school board of that state comes up and says, how do I join in? And this is expanding very fast and very quick. And the sectors also are expanding. We started at 4, and we are up to many more. The second is, let me give you an example of Delhi University. So we signed this MOU. It was initially for the FIUP. FIUP got scrapped. Now we are taking it into the normal program. We hope to spread it across 67 colleges, over 3.3 lakh students. So organizations such as Talent Sprint will say, okay, we'll deliver our program in these 2-3 colleges. The students would pay for that, and then they would get certified by the Sector Skill Council, and it actually works pretty well. So if you look at the overall plan, we have Tamil Nadu Open University also looking at 4 lakh people this year. We have Punjab, we have Andhra Pradesh colleges underway, private universities coming in. The entire community college system under UGC and AICTE would actually be covered under this. Most of the state skill missions are adapting this. And guess what? The sector skill councils are not mandatory. They don't have any legislative power, but people believe that it is better to deal collectively with industry rather than chasing individual companies, and they're actually doing this. So how do we actually integrate the skills with academics, and what are we looking at, and what is the benefit of doing it this way? So the curriculum is adapted to industry sectors and job roles. It is standardized training partners, like I said, delivered by NSDC training partners. You heard the Talent Sprint presentation. Internships are normally involved, and assessment and certification is done by the Sector Skill Counselor. So NASSCOM won't be able to come and say, if they're doing the IT and IT Sector Skill Council and certifying your students, they can't come and say only 25% of the people that I have certified are employable. They will actually look at it in a different manner. You can come and tell them, hey, you certified this guy, why isn't he not getting a job? So you need to integrate, like as you said earlier, skills with regular studies, utilize existing infrastructure. In the evenings, see if you can service the community around you. Over the weekends, see if your students and teachers can service the community around you and enhance employability skills of students. You know, I was addressing a group of teachers and lecturers, and they said, you know, why is it that we have a problem in communication skills? I said the problem is that you don't teach English the way it is meant to be taught. So if you turn the English class into an interactive session where the students actually interacted and spoke to you and discussed things, by the time he's out in the 8th class, the whole system would be different. So the curriculum could be the same, the objective could be the same, and if you're an inspiring teacher, to borrow a word from Dr. Rangarajan, then you could actually transform the students in your class even in the existing situation. Industry is expected to bridge the gap between demand and supply, and what they do is they also provide trainers, and they provide people who come and assess your students. And I think for industry, it actually results in a higher return on investment. The Haryana pilot for schools, interestingly, the identification of trades was done by the sector skill councils and the training partners. The teachers were trained by the training partners. The trainers were recruited, and they accredited the curriculum, and we got the institute to develop specific books for that, assessment, quality control of training, and placements. So we actually have a whole lot of people who have been placed in this from the Haryana School Board going forward. And this is the result of the pilot batch that was done, but this is now actually scaled up. Very interestingly, a lot of people had joined a retail company when Marks and Spencers came and offered them 15,000 rupees for joining. They left that and went. And one of the big challenges here is that students value the 8 hours of work. And if you don't pay enough, and if they find that industry is not paying, they won't even join a training program for that industry. Because a lot of industry pays minimum wages, and that's a big challenge. So if you pay for skills, you get good people. So what are we trying to do? In this journey earlier, the training institutions, they did their trainees, you send people for apprenticeships or summer trainees or something like that. Assessments were done, exams conducted, a degree, diploma awarded. But industry was missing. Most of the, you saw the numbers that were unemployed going forward. So what we've tried to do, we've actually put the ball back in industry's court. We said if industry were to set the job role standards, would take your courses and verify that they're aligned, but yet give you the academic independence to design your own courseware and delivery mechanisms. They do the assessment through employer-led and assessment bodies. And very interestingly, the sector skill council's qualification packs are actually aligned to international standards. We are developing standards with Australia. Australia is working with us to recognize these standards for the immigration purpose. We are looking at aligning with the European Union. It is already aligned to the UK, so that any person who is certified by this sector council will actually have a global opportunity. And therefore, increasing the placement percentages, showing career progress and increased wages and mobility, and also promoting entrepreneurship. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is the transformation in the ecosystem that we are trying to get. But the young boys don't know it. They're used to the 60-odd years of education that has been delivered, and they're getting disillusioned with it because that's what's reflected in the dropouts. So we got an advocacy campaign going on, series of communications through radio, TV. We're having endorsement campaigns. I'm sure you recognize Srikanth and Mr. Ramodurai in that photograph. Kishore Biani, Sancheti, Mr. Sonowal, and wrestler Kumar are the others in that list. We have a call center which is responding to this. And a lot of people believe that this won't succeed. But from 2nd of October to the 20th of October, we've actually got 581,000 calls of people wanting to enroll. But we're not there. It's a 5-state program, and in Tamil Nadu, we've got the least response. So we are now engaging with stakeholders in Tamil Nadu to see how we redo our campaign. In a few minutes from now, you will see the TV serial Hunarbaz on television, and the beauty and wellness is actually the subject today. So I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity and allowing us to partner you. I want to thank each one of you for coming here. And like Ravi said, I'm an optimist, and I believe that if we have a confluence of minds and if we all work together, as Talent Sprint said, and if all of us could work together in this room led by Talent Sprint, we are sure we will overcome this crisis and actually make it an opportunity. Because if we don't transform the lives of millions of young people over the next few years, we will be in a situation that is reflected in many, many areas of the country today. And I'm sure we don't want that to spread over the country, but we want to remove what is happening there in those districts. So again, thank you very much.